Hello everyone, this is Samkelo Ndeta, founder of Success TV, and we're proud to be bringing you stories of success. Today we're fortunate to have John Macartan come share his story of success with us. John is a former Durban High School All-Boy who worked overseas for a few years before coming back to work in Durban on the establishment of Lipton Ice Tea as well as Ola Ice Cream for the Unilever Group. He then moved on to the GUD Group, which is a major player in the automotive industry, helping refresh their brands and take the GUD Group to the next level in the South African market as the marketing manager. John now works with us in one of my businesses, Kingsley Elliot Consulting, and I've asked him to join me here at the Moses Mabhida Virgin Active so we can talk about his story of success. Welcome, John. It's good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Samkelo. Thanks for the invite.
I'm excited to hear a bit more about your story in terms of how you've been able to structure your life as well as your career. From what I understand, you've been working a 3-day week for the last couple of years. When was that?
I resigned from GUD Holdings in 2018. I decided it was time for a change, and I took 6 months off traveling and then came back to the workplace and decided, especially with the flexibility that businesses are moving to, instead of working a 5-day week, why not work a 3-day week? And companies were quite receptive to that because I think as a consultant, it saves them money. Instead of them paying you for a 5-day week, they pay you for a 3-day week, and you get the benefit of the flexibility as well.
So while the rest of the world is talking about a 4-day week, you jump straight from 5 to 3.
I like to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, so tell us, what does working a 3-day week look like?
Obviously, it gives you the time to do the things that you want to do. So this year, for example, I signed up for a digital marketing course through UCT and really upskilled myself in terms of digital marketing, which was something I always wanted to do, but never had the opportunity previously to do so. And, pursuing my passions.
What are some of those passions?
Well, I love trail running and I love surfing. So spending more time on the trails and spending more time on the water.
In between the emails and conference calls.
Exactly.
Yeah. Was this always a part of your life's plan? And when did you start planning for it?
I think it was a gradual progression that I was just feeling that my time wasn't my own. And I decided, instead of moving back into a job where that flexibility wasn't present, rather pursue the 3 or 4 day week.
So maybe you can first tell us about how you ended up working for such good companies and getting good jobs before we talk about the secrets of working a 3-day work week. I think some of that information will be really helpful for some of our younger viewers who aspire for that kind of success. For example, what did you study?
I wasn't really sure what area I wanted to go into, whether I was going to go into law or commerce, but I found myself getting more and more passionate about marketing the more I learnt about it.
And so was this BCom marketing?
Yes, it ended up being BCom marketing, and I did an honours year specialising just in marketing.
Why did you choose BCom marketing in particular?
Well, I think BCom's a nice background in commerce, and then marketing was definitely the one subject that I was most passionate about.
How did you manage to get your first job?
So my first job was in London, and I worked for a media sales company. So I was a telephone salesman for a year in London, selling advertising boards around soccer stadiums and space and magazines, mainly for sporting events around the world. One of the projects I worked on was the Pan American Games. So what that involved was phoning decision makers and pitching them on your projects and persuading them that Pan American Games or whatever the project was the right place for them to place their brand.
That must have been a tough one for a first-time employee.
No, it was tough. You had to have staying power and perseverance, and a bit of a gift of persuasion as well.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about Unilever. How did you get into Unilever?
So I came back from London after being there for 2 years and been doing quite a lot of traveling, and I moved back home. And then my dad found an advert in the paper, and it was for a subsidiary of Unilever's called Hudson and Knight. And he said, why don't you apply for this job? I didn't know at the time it was part of the Unilever group, and it was as a brand assistant, and I ended up getting the job. So that's how I started in Unilever.
Unilever was big back then, and I'm sure it's just as big or bigger today, but would you recommend a talented young person to apply to work at Unilever, and why?
Absolutely. I think Unilever really invested in me. Their investment in courses and upskilling you, I think, is second to none. It was really rated as one of the best employers.
Yeah, and so you've worked for some top companies, or rather I should say you've worked for some good brands, because at Unilever I think you ended up jumping into Lipton. How did you get onto the Lipton team?
So I'd been finishing off on the Kappa Soup brand. We had just done a repositioning project on Kappa Soup, positioning it as an everyday brand. And at that time, Lipton was on the cards to be launched in South Africa. So I was asked whether I would head up the national sales into the retail division, which was a really big project. And I was really excited by that. And that was the beginning of the Lipton chapter.
Tell us about some of the highlights of that journey. What were some of their big brands, such as Ola and Lipton?
So the kickoff of Lipton Ice Tea was really exciting. The start of it involved a project called Paint Joburg Yellow. So what we did, we divided all our Joburg employees into different teams and assigned them to different areas of Joburg. Armed with point of sale material, order sheets and samples, we went out and introduced Johannesburg's retailers to Lipton Ice Tea in a really exciting day. And it was a competition to see which team came back with the most orders and who had sampled the most people and put up the most Lipton Ice Tea flags.
Yeah.
And so we really hit Joburg with a bang, and that was the start of Lipton Ice Tea in Johannesburg.
Yeah, interesting. So at some stage, I understand you also did some work on Ola, the pedal pop brand.
One of the most important things in impulse purchases is to have the product in the way almost of the customer. So, I think in terms of finances, you often find that income is not related to wealth.